Breathe Like a Fish come out and speak to targeting summertime redfish. A lot of you guys know, and a lot of you guys probably follow Mike on Instagram. You guys probably have Breathe Like a Fish shirts. If not, you need to get one because they're the greatest fishing shirts made on the planet. I even wear them out to dinner. I don't care. It doesn't hurt my feelings because they're awesome shirts. But we asked them to come out because Kent, if you guys don't know, has his own redfish tournament. Is the Florida Pro Redfish Tournament sponsored by Power Pole and Breathe Like a Fish. Kent is I say this lightly, is an expert at artificial. And if you guys know, Mike is an expert at live bait. So we asked him to come out that way because some guys like to throw artificial, some guys like to throw live bait. So without any further ado, Captain Mike Goodwine and Kent Hickman. All right. Be easy on Mike. This is his first speaking engagement, so don't try to sit there and bombard him too much.
It's cool. We got another black guy in the house. So.
First of all, before you start, I've been coming to Southshore anglers meetings off what are you on, 7, 8 years now?
8 years.
For people to do what they do and consistently do it, and year after year after year, because I've seen these things come and go. Somebody does something good for a year or two, which is great. I mean, they've been consistent. Steve dedicated basically his life to it. Tiger is his right-hand man, so I'd like to give them a hand for all the work. Trust me, it's a lot of work. Mike and I fish two different styles. Pretty much what I'm going to tell you is the opposite of what Mike's going to tell you, but it's for a reason, because we do it two different ways. We look for fish in different situations. And I made a little, it's terrible, but it's something I can kind of relate to. And so, summertime red fishing, we're in August, so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is like what we're going to do like the rest of the year. Mike's going to talk about what he's been doing, because we're really 6 weeks into where you start getting into kind of the fall patterns. And so a couple things I do, first of all, is you ever went fishing on a Saturday and caught a bunch of fish, like awesome, I caught a bunch of fish, and you go to the same place the next Saturday and you didn't catch them. Like what happened? I was just here Saturday, I took them. And this is how you need to treat that. Every weekend is an opposite tide. So if you caught them on that Saturday, wherever you caught them, and you go back 2 weeks from that Saturday, you're going to have a very similar tide. Whether it was low or high, it's going to be very similar. So you can always do that. So when I pre-fish for a tournament, I pre-fish the weekend 2 weeks before the tournament. That's when I pre-fish. And I go maybe the day or two before the tournament because I want the fish to be in the same area on that tide, because Mike's going to tell you too, he's a big tide guy. And I catch them before Mike gets them when a lot of times they get up under the bushes, and you can tell me a little bit about what you do when you catch some of your fish.
Yeah, I personally, like he said, I fish the tides, and 2 hours before and an hour after. That's when I like to fish. And
high
tide. Yeah. On high tide, and I usually like to target them coming in, and because my background is from bass fishing, that's what I've done before I started saltwater fishing. So I like to flip and pitch up under the bushes. And when I first started, I was doing like everybody else out there on the flat, falling, trying to catch them out of holes, and couldn't make it happen. And then on a high tide one day, I went in there and flipped under the bush and caught a redfish, and caught another redfish, and caught another redfish. So I like to plan it about 2 hours or 3 hours. It depends on how the tide gonna get it. Like right now, we getting 2.5s. So you go 3 hours before you go start fishing. Just say if it's a 2.5 at 3 o'clock, just at cockroach, I won't show up to the boat ramp until 12 o'clock. By that time, everybody done left mad because they ain't catching nothing. And then I get to park up front and they gotta walk 3 miles to the boat ramp. And then I go in and it's perfect. The water come up, catch fish.
And so, if you don't follow tides, when people are talking like 2.5 literally can go to the same bush on the same tide in October next year, and the fish are probably going to be there.
Yeah, and speaking on that, like he said, keeping notes. I use my social media, Instagram and Facebook, and before I go fishing, I go look like the following year on that day and see what I've done, because it's there. The pictures are there, and I remember where I was, and so I go back to that to let me see.
Automatic log.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just go into how I would do something, and Michael, I drew this. This is like, I just drew it for this area actually, just to show you. This is Tampa Bay right out here. Anybody that's ever been in Tampa Bay, this is the same pattern you're going to find anywhere on the west coast of Florida. And I'll go into that a little bit more. When you're going down, when you're heading south toward the Skyway on a low tide, how many people have seen the sandbar sticking out of the water? I mean, and you keep going, and you're going to see it in Sarasota, and you're going to see it in Venice, you're going to see it in Charlotte Harbor, and you're going to see it all the way down the coast. This same sandbar. Now it breaks and cuts with houses and bridges and all that stuff, but this is it. So, a lot of people, I call them the other side of the sandbar people, because I don't fish on that side. This is where the people that don't catch fish are.
Yes.
Now you can catch trout out here, and I'll tell you some other areas you can catch it. I have a low water boat. My boat's kind of a shallow draft boat because I'm a low water guy. That's why I was saying we're doing opposite. Mike likes the high tide. I like the low tide. So I'm going to come down here, and I look at them. I'll be in here whacking redfish, and I look at all these boats out here waiting on the tide.
Yeah.
And they're out here just waiting so they can get over that sandbar. And my boat, it's not like real special, but it'll float in 8-10 inches of water. So I can use incline and cut. I know a couple secret little places to get back in here. What the fish do before they get to Mike at 2 o'clock, like you just said. And most of this is more towards the fall. In the summer, it's all about beating up the bushes on high tide. It really is. It's hard to catch them. I caught a couple good ones last night on a flat. But they just like to get they like to be in the shade. The last tournament I fished in, I had to pull one out of the bushes, and we got one on a flat. We ended up third place in that tournament. So what I do, the first thing I do, I find out which way the wind is. Because let's say I'm going to fish inside here. This is 1 foot of water. I catch all my redfish in 1 to 3 foot of water. Unless it's like Mike, sometimes the shore's deep, but I don't fish a redfish 1 to 3 foot of water is all I ever catch them in. I've hardly ever caught them any deeper than that. So the first things I do, if I'm cruising in my boat this way, I find out which way the wind's going. I want the wind at my back. So if I want to fish this area and the wind's coming out of that area, or even if it's just a little bit of a breeze, I'll come all the way down here and I'll start this way. That way the wind's at my back, I'm on my trolling motor, and I'll give some weighting information too, because not everyone here has a boat, that kind of thing. So typically, perfect scenario would be at the sun at my back and the wind at my back. So I'm going to come in here, and what happens on a low tide, the fish hadn't come in here I don't want to point too much, because Mike's going to get mad at me, but fish ain't come back here yet, okay? This is some deep shorelines, this is some deep, they're all over the place. You can learn a lot about fishing on low tides. So when you've been out here on negative tide, and literally the sandbar's just completely out of the water, and a lot of people won't even go out on that day. Those are the days I go out on. What forms is ponds. My buddy calls them ponds, I call them depressions. So inside these sandbars, it's just, they're just all over the place. You got to find them. So if you go out on a rolling tide, look for mullet jumping. You're looking inside the sandbar, you start seeing mullet jumping. Well, the mullet can't jump if it's dry. So that potentially there's an area for fish. What happens? They get trapped in there. So they're condensed. So I have an area that, and I know them pretty well because I've been fishing. So I have an area that has, 6 little depressions, and it's hard. I go in there on a low tide, so I'm grinding in there a little bit. With my trolling motor, that's when you got to get in there.
And when he say low, it's low. I've been out the boat fishing.
Yeah, we push. We push. Now, if you're a sandbar person, you can if you got a bigger boat, you can just dock it here and wade this stuff. And it's all the way down. They're all the way down. I've won 2 tournaments 1 mile from here. I mean, there's quality fish all the way down. like he said, I only fish this the hour before load and the hour after, because then the fish cruise and they go where Mike's fish are.
Yeah.
So some of them are over here, they occasionally wait here. They don't like this side because that's where, the sharks and the porpoises are. You know, they don't want to be over here, this is where they get in trouble. But they do get out here, I'm not saying they don't get out here, but they like to fall in these depressions, which might only be this much water, but everywhere else is dry. You know, so if you can find these, they're full of flounder. From September to December, they're full of trout, flounder, and redfish. They're really, really good holes. And they're literally from here to, you know, the end of Florida. I mean, this is a pattern that you can go anywhere and fish. So I'm gonna hit these holes right around the low tide. And what I throw, you know, mainly when I'm pothole fishing, and some people don't know what a jig head is, so I brought one. A jig head is that, just in case you didn't know. This is like an 1/8 ounce, and you put a salt plastic on it. And there's a million salt plastics. If they're in there, they're going to eat just about anything you throw. I personally like twisty tails. You know, just hook it like so. And, you know, that's your bait. So there's Strike King, Slayer, everybody makes different baits, but that's what, when somebody says, when I say jig head and salt plastic, that's what I'm talking about. Everything eats this. You know, it's little, like they said, the elephants eat peanuts. I mean, you'll catch all kind of fish eat this.
Does it matter on the color?
I use a dark color and I use white a lot. I use a chartreuse jig head. If you see me in a tournament from here to Alabama, I'm going to have chartreuse jig head and a white bait to start with. And if that's not working, I'll switch it and do just something dark. You know, white or dark. I don't do a whole lot of in between. I do like contrasting colors on my jig head, like a chartreuse versus white. So I'm going to pop these holes, and as the tide goes in, this is when Mike's coming to the ramp, because he's going to clean me up, because all these fish that I've been working hard for, they're all going to conjugate somewhere, and he knows where some of those places are right now. And so you can probably find something on my drawing here that looks like where you're fishing.
Yeah. Why did you draw it?
I left out a couple details.
Yeah.
But show me, I mean, what is it exactly? Is it a deep mangrove? Is it a deep hole?
Well,
I mean, the different places, not just the one place, but your different places. What do you do once the tide rushes in? These holes are no longer any good. These are, I mean, you might get a trout or something, but this fills up. This is 3, 4, 5 foot of water. Here comes the tide rushing in, rushing all the bait, you know, bouncing off the back shoreline. And so they're coming through the cuts and all that, and that's where Mike comes in.
Yeah, and like he said, the people out here ain't gonna be catching fish. A lot of times they are too far out, but this sandbar, like he said, I consider it like a highway. I call it the highway. And they like to stay on the inside of it, and they'll run up and down this bar. They'll go in these holes. And so while I'm waiting for the tide to do its thing, if I'm early and I have to go catch bait and I'm sitting out there waiting, everybody be out here fishing, and I get as close as I can to this sandbar and troll down it, and like he said, I look for mullet. 9 times out of 10, the mullet is going to tell you where the redfish are or the birds. And another thing that I found is we got a bunch of schools of jikes and ladyfish and a lot of other different junk fish. So when I started fishing out here waiting, I see the big schools of jikes busting out here, and nobody wouldn't fish out them because they think, oh, it's junk fish. And so one day I was bored and was like, you know, I'm just gonna go catch some while I'm waiting. And we sitting there, the jikes came through, and you could look in the water and see them coming by. And then all of a sudden, the water turned red. There's nothing but redfish behind me. And we tore the redfish up. So I started doing that. When I see schools of jikes, I'm like, I'm going to fish those jikes. And jikes here, and they followed wherever I seen jikes. The redfish was following because the jikes was just going like a frenzy, feeding on stuff, and whatever they leave behind, the redfish is coming behind them, eating them. And the only thing that's bad about that, if you got 2 or 3 people in the boat, and that school come through, somebody gonna catch a jike, and it's like, oh, I got a jike.
And here's to add that, a friend of mine, Cody Chavez, anybody that watches TV, he's a young guy that's a good tournament angler. He won a tournament, same scenario. He was fishing a school of jacks. He was throwing a gold spoon. He said the jacks were kind of laying off his gold spoon, but the redfish were eating it. That's a good pattern. You see a bunch of jacks, you keep catching them on, like they'll annihilate the jig and all that. They'll hit these, but they don't love them. But redfish love the gold spoon. It's been around forever. And I'm going to go over a couple scenarios when you want to use that. But that's exactly right. My friend won a big tournament in Charlotte Harbor, and he had to wade through a couple jacks, but he caught redfish underneath them. And he said the only way he could do it was to throw a spoon. And anything this guy says, I listen to because he's won a lot of money. And that's where I got a lot of my information from all my friends that do the same thing I do. So,
And then, like I said, the key thing too while you're out here, fish really ain't biting, but you just gotta watch the water, and it's crazy because I get up on the highest point of the boat and I bird dog the water, and I see stuff that other people can't see. Like I've seen boats out there, and it'd be a school of reds 15 feet from their boat, and they didn't even know. And it's just a little certain movement you can watch and see in the water. And the mistake that a lot of people make, that they write it off as mud or some kind of junk fish, and they're like, I ain't going after it. So if you see any kind of movement on top of the water, fish it. I mean, because you're out there not catching it anyway. So go fish it and you'll see. You'll be surprised on what you can find. But so then when the tides start coming up, the waters get high enough where we could go in. I usually like to fish according to not the wind, but more of the sun. I like to fish anywhere that's got shade. And so if the sun is on this side, I'm gonna hit everywhere on the back side here. And usually if you find one area that's holding fish, it's all about the pattern. If you find one fish that's holding the area, say if you find them on this point right here, you can find a point just like that anywhere back there, and catch fish. You just drive around till you see something that looks like that, and you will catch fish. For some reason, they pattern like that. You know, you'll get a long line right here, and you won't catch nothing, and they'll be on all the points. And so that's another thing I look for.
Redfish, like I drew that this is like an island, and I drew this straight for a reason. I rarely catch a fish on a straight shoreline.
Yes,
I don't. I'm not saying they're not there, but I've fished them like for 10 years and I haven't caught one. So I just don't do that anymore.
they don't like
Right. I'm not saying they're not there. I've never caught one, so I don't fish a straight shoreline. But when it stops and it coves out like that, redfish like to be cozy. They're cozy fish. They like to come in here. Let's say the tide's coming in, it's kind of swirling in here, the tide, maybe it's ripping through here, but it's kind of like an eddy. They love stuff like that. These coves like this, redfish love coves. You won't typically find them in the passes necessarily. You can get them with bait sometimes. They're hard to get on artificial. What they do is as the water comes in, you'll see mullet like out here. And I'll throw a gold spoon in here like this, like where the water's coming in. Maybe it's only 1 to 2 foot as the tide's coming in. So that's when I do like a search bait, like a Sabile, which is this. These are $15. You may not want to use these, but this is a floater. You twitch it and it goes under the water like that. This works about the same way, and these are cheap. But these two are search baits, so I might just sling these and blind cast an area to fish that. And then, but you know, so learning the tides is like learning. It's just everything's about the tide. I used to not be such a tide person as I am now, but it's well. And then you reverse it as the water, it's all high, you know, back in here, and, you know, deep bushes. If you can go in a place on a low tide, and you're in there, like this winter, new moon and full moon, that's your super negatives, and they're in the morning. That's when they start. Go out in your boat when it's one of those low days. Don't run aground or whatever. But look, and if you got a kayak or any of that kind of stuff, you can get around. But go out and look. Just start driving down the thing here and look, and you'll see these little ponds form different places, and there's fish in them. I mean, I caught a bunch of flounder last October. I was, you know, showing off on Facebook and all that. I'm like, hey, where's your flounder hole? I said, my flounder hole is a 2-mile spot. It's got a bunch of potholes in it, and I'm just bouncing and jigging it. We're catching like 22 inch, I mean, good ones. You know, big West Coast flounder. And more than we were throwing them back, we were catching too many. We were catching 4 or 5, and I don't keep a lot of fish. Same pattern. We'd catch a few redfish in there, and snook too, and trout and everything else. Great pattern if you got a skinny water boat or a kayak. Again, you can get out and wade these. You know, pull your boat here, come pop, 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 pop. It's only this deep. You know, you need waders. You know, you're not going to get boys wet or anything. So do that. Move the boat down. Get out. So you don't have to have like technical skiff like I have. You know, kayakers, they're my worst enemy because they got me all figured out. You know, they're always in my spots. They're the only people that get back in there. You know, just take your boat. Some of these you can get from the roads. You know, like if I was a wade guy and I didn't have a boat or a kayak, Fort DeSoto is a great area to go fish because there's a lot of access to water there that you can wade and get to some really good fishing. So,
And speaking on Fort DeSoto, probably about 2 months ago, we was fishing Fort DeSoto, and it was the people on the shoreline was catching more redfish than the people on the boat, in the boats. We all like huddled our boats right in front of those people just to catch redfish. And they was just on the shoreline like doubled up and everything. And the reds they was hugging that shoreline, the trough through there. And so the next day I left my boat home and we went to the shoreline and tore the reds up.
yeah,
Didn't have to worry about gas and cleaning the boat, and you know, so.
but this pattern is something you literally can see. I fished and Tiger fished it too. The IFA in front of Board is a big redfish series. There's 103 boats, and I wasn't sure I was going to fish in it. And it was a Chamber of Commerce weather leading up to the tournament. It was like 75 degrees, like 60 in the morning. There was no wind. Monday through Friday, that was the forecast. Friday, a big front was coming through. And I called him Monday when I saw that forecast. I said, yeah, sign me up, because I knew what was going to happen. So 103 boats showed up. We had a north wind that was going to hit with a negative tide. So I go in there Friday, I get down one day early. I'm just idling around Bull Bay and Turtle Bay, if anyone's ever been down there. And I'm watching all these guys fish. I'm not even fishing. They're all poling and running and doing all this stuff. And I'm watching them, and I'm just laughing to myself because I'm like, there's not going to be any water in here tomorrow. And they're spending all week pre-fishing this backwater. And they got bigger boats bait, they're in there to eat. I mean, they come in there to, relax, and so they get condensed in all these holes. And you might fish two that doesn't have any holes, and the fourth one does. I mean, it's just hit and miss. But, these are patterns to look for. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to see it. I like when I'm looking for a pothole, if it's white, it may be a little shallow, but one that's got a little bit of green to it, you can tell maybe it's about that deep on these negative tides. And those are the ones that always have the better fish. And they're fun. It's almost like sight fishing. You don't really see the fish. You can just throw one of these jigs in there and hit the edges. Redfish love edges. If this is a deep edge, I'm going to fish this edge. I'm going to fish the edge of the holes. I'm not just going to throw in the middle. I'm going to pick it apart on the edges. And then you may throw one in the middle at the end. But redfish love edges. And so that's just stuff to look for. And
then when the tide get high enough for me to go in there, because I'm using live bait. When I go catch my bait, anybody ever know he's fish with me, Tony. I'm one of them guys where you gotta take the net out my hand and say, let's go fishing. Because I'm gonna black it out on top of black it out till it's just a bunch of bait. And the reason I do it is because when I get in here, I just go to these potholes or into these points and I use the bait that I have to find the redfish. I just start chomping. And I find like this hole here, I throw a bunch of greenies in there and then just wait. I won't even fish. And I just look. And if I see any kind of movement in the water, I'm like, yeah, they're here. Then I throw out and start catching them. And,
how long do you wait, like if you chum something up? How long do you sit there?
I stay, cause I like to move, so I give it a good 10 minutes. Well, 10 minutes, you'll know if they're there or not. If you don't hear nothing pop, no snub, no nothing, you might as well just move. And then I just move around and keep chumming until I find it, or I run out of bait and have to go get some more chum. So, and then I've done that plenty of times. And so that's the way I approach them. And like he said, when the tide come in, I call them, trying to think if I should say this or not.
Go ahead, Mike.
I look for any kind of like indention, like this right here, before I move in. And like he said, that water come in, and it's just the opposite. You would think, to see if this is a deep hole, you would think on low tide the fish would go in there. But if you go on these holes against the mangroves on low tide, it won't be no fish there. But when that water started coming in, it pushed those reds, and they'll get in there. And they'll sit, like he said, and normally they'll do like a figure eight. I've seen them do figure eights, and they just keep going around and around and around. And having a lot of bait is the key. I went fishing with a guy, and he took me to one of his spots. He said he catch 2 or 3 redfish from there. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna show you something if he said it. And we went, and the fish came through. And we caught a couple fish. And I grabbed the net and started throwing bait. He was looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm keeping the fish here. And if a school of reds come through, and you just catch a couple of fish and take a picture and don't keep bait out there, they're gonna keep moving because they're looking for bait. So usually I have somebody whoever ain't hooked up. I was like, man, grab some chum and start chumming. And once he started chumming, I've even put my pole with a fish on, hooked up, put the fish in the rod holder, and start throwing charmers out. And we sat there and wore the fish out for a good 30, 40 minutes. And if we didn't do that, we'd catch 1 or 2, and keep moving to wherever they're going to settle in. So that's get a lot of bait. And we call it chumheavy.com. That's what we say. All right, time to chumheavy.com.
Right.
And then somebody else
Well,
called chum.
we were talking the other day, you made a good point. You had trouble catching bait, and you switched to pinfish.
Yes.
And, well, we had a bunch of rain, obviously,
couldn't get the white bait, and we annihilated the redfish with pinfish. I mean, just, it was eating it like candy. So the next day I went out there, and everybody, all my buddies out there, chumming, trying to catch a bait, and I went and blacked out my live wells with pinfish, and I wrote by them.
Now, how do you do that versus white bait? How do you net and fish?
Same way you do white bait.
In the same
Yeah,
spot?
same area. Yeah. So I blacked out the live wells with pinfish and was riding by and kind of tried to rub it in. I'm like, yeah, man, I got my live wells blacked out. They thinking I got white bait.
Right.
I was like, they right over there. So we went, and while they were still catching fish, we had put at least 15, 20 fish in the boat. While they was, I could see those guys out there still throwing. And the reason is you gotta match the hatch. If it ain't no white bait out there and it's full of pinfish, that's what those redfish are eating. They eating pinfish. So you fish with pinfish. And I fish the East Coast sometimes, and I'll go over there and we usually use cut mullet over there. I take cut mullet, and you can see the blue crabs can pull up through the river where we fish at. And I know right then I ain't catching a fish on the cut mullet, because the blue crabs are everywhere. That's what the redfish are eating. And so I'll get my net, catch a couple on. You guys should dip them up, put them on, catch a redfish. So the reason I'm saying all this, you gotta match the hatch with live bait. That's just it, you know. Or I see people go out there and not even fish because they can't catch white bait. And I'm like, man, you just. And I won't tell them. I'm telling them. I mean, you gotta match that. So that's just it.
And that's the same deal. The reason I like the fall, winter, and spring is my favorite time of year to fish. The bait goes away, so my artificials do a lot better. I don't like to fish artificials in the summer as much. I mean, I do catch them, just the numbers are down, and so I chase tarpon and stuff in the summer. But so the bait goes away, so you get in there and they start eating crabs and shrimp and things like that, and that's these kind of things right here. That's what they start looking for. So you have a lot more success. So I actually in the summer, because it's bait time, I use the Sevilles or spoons because that's kind of pinfishy, bait fishy stuff. And then I'll use the stuff. You can hardly get these out of my hand or something like this in the spring, winter, and fall. This is what I'm going to use 90% of the time. So that's really, that's kind of things to look for. I like to fish, me, because I'm on the trolling motor the whole time. I cover a lot of ground. Mike might go to 6 or 8 spots and chum them up and see what's there. And I'm going to fish. I'm literally going to do something like this with my boat. I know where all the depressions are, or that's what I'm looking for. And I'm going to hit all these points, and I'm going to cover a lot of ground. I make a lot of casts. I mean, we throw it hundreds of times. And so that's what we do. Where he comes in there and makes it much easier and wears them out. And I'm working for 6 or 8 fish here, and he's over here in one spot catching 30. But that's the difference between artificial and, especially in the summer. Summertime is just, it's much easier to catch fish with all the bait. They don't want to eat this stuff when there's white bait and fish everywhere. We caught 2 30 inchers last night on these right here. Yeah. But we worked our butts off for it.
And speaking of, he said, I catch 30 fish for one spot. And a lot of people don't believe it. If somebody told me, hey, I caught 60 fish off one spot, I'd be like, whatever. Until you go with me, and then you can see. Tony, he's seen it. You can just weigh them out. And the reason why I think a lot of anglers don't catch a lot of fish off one spot, the average angler, he'll be fishing alone, and he'll catch a fish from right here, and he's like, oh, I caught a fish, take a picture or whatever, keep it. And then he move on and keep going and go to another spot. But if it's one redfish there, it's 20 of them.
Especially in the summer.
That's just,
His pattern is packs, and what we saw last night, the reason my eyes messed up is I drove back in the dark. We found a giant school at 8:45. It's about time it's almost dead darkness. And so we couldn't leave. We caught 2 really nice ones on, similar. We had to hook it weedless. There's so much grass down there.
live bait, we find those big schools on the flat. Like we found one yesterday after our spot petered out. It was headed out. And speaking on that, when you get finished fishing, I see a lot of people do this too. They throw all their bait out like we done, and then they heading in. If you're a live bait fisherman, don't throw your bait out until you get your boat on the trailer. Then throw it out. Because even then you might see a school of reds come out the boat ramp, you ain't got no bait. Well anyway, that's I learned that the hard way. I was driving, didn't have no bait, and the biggest school of redfish came by, and I had to try to do what he do, throw out a fish, and I couldn't. So
And the one thing that's kind of neat about the difference in the two ways of fishing, a lot of the fish that Mike is catching, I'm catching different fish. I'm catching fish that live differently than his fish. They're onesie twosies that are mixed in here. He's got like schooling fish, and it's for example, it would be hard to throw bait in a 2-foot grassy depression. Because how are you going to do that? Put it on a bobber and have it under the bait? I mean, how are you going to fish bait in this much grass and this much water ahead of it? If you throw it, it's just going to go down in the grass. You can put it on a bobber, which is probably your only way to do it. They're going to swim down in the grass, and that can make it hard to catch them. So that's those areas I stay away. Like if I was going to fish an artificial tournament, which is that's the ones we fish in. And Mike, I know where Mike's catching his fish. I know where he's catching them. I would not go there.
yeah, I'm catching them right here.
I literally sometimes he caught 30 or 400 fish in the last week in this one area. I would not go there. If there was a tournament tomorrow, I would not go to that spot. I know that sounds crazy, but I would not go there. It's just a different kind of animal. They think differently, and I might dead stick a gulp or something maybe and get them to eat, but I'm gonna try to catch them in transition. I'm not gonna catch them where he's catching them. I'm gonna try to catch them as they're moving in or out here on this side of the sandbar. I'm gonna try to catch maybe the same fish, but just not in his spot. And we have captains that show up in our tournaments all the time. Well-known captains, TV guys, and zero all the time. Like, dude, aren't you on TV and stuff? Because all he does is bait. And so he comes to this tournament, and it's much harder than you think, because he goes right to a spot where he just tore up 50 redfish yesterday with bait, and he tries to catch them artificial, and you can't do that.
I've done that in one of his tournaments.
Yeah, it's literally, you got to think totally different. So he likes to ask me to go bait sometimes, and I tell him I won't go, because I know it's going to screw my head up. He's going to make it way too easy, and I'm going to be ruined from what I like to do. I'm just going to be like, oh, and I see it all the time. So it's really two different mentalities. And, it's just, you just time on the water, but if I had to give you one piece of advice, when the tides start getting low, it's run down these, doesn't matter if it's Tampa Bay or Port DeSoto or wherever, find that outer sandbar that runs out here and just look inside here, all the way down wherever you fish, and look for mullet. And they're on the low part of the tide. By the time you can get a big boat in there, they're not going to be there anymore. So you got to be real selective on the fishing. But you also learn, like the places that Mike's fishing, you get in here and it's pretty skinny. You start finding, say, it's really low in here, but there's 3 foot under this mangrove. And it's low tide. And that's what Mike looks for. And that's what I look for too, because I have to, and sometimes in tournaments, I have to come back here and beat up the bushes. And I look for the deep mangrove shores, because a lot of them will be 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, and all of a sudden, this is a little 3-foot section that's 20 feet long, and there's going to be fish there. So look, that's the other thing the low tide teaches you, is where the deep mangrove shorelines are, and some of these depressions. So it just helps you learn a lot more fishing spots.
And the best advice I could give, I kind of came up with this trial and error, just trying it. Those redfish, when they get in those bushes, and the reason I could share this information, because you gotta know how to cast. That's just it. And I'm still learning. And while I'm learning, I don't know if any y'all know when you trying to pitch inside the mangroves, you popping lines. I call it a mangrove meltdown, where I just get it, where I'm just breaking stuff. But and I see people that fish the mangroves and they'll be throwing and letting it land way on the outside. They scared to get near the bushes, and you ain't gonna catch no fish unless you hang it up. That's part of it. You know, when you go,
what is your typical tackle, like braid? What size braid? You use braid, right?
yeah, 20-pound braid and 25-liter. I do line a lot. I don't use popping corks because it's hard to get a popping cork up on the bushes, and I use a one-aught circle hook. Yes, I use circle hook. Make fun of me, but I use circle hooks because it's just so easy to just grab it to just start reeling.
Yeah.
And I fish with a lot of people that can't set the hook, so I'm just adjusted with fishing circle hooks. And if I wanted to set the hook, I'd go bass fish. I've done that all my life. So that's why I don't use J hooks. And people get on my boat and we go back and forth, but hey, I'm there to catch fish. I ain't there to try to
This is
prove
like
it.
the difference, a tournament, an artificial tournament guy, we use 10-pound braid and 20-pound fluorocarbon because our deal is making long casts. So we use a little bit lighter line, and most of the time, if you got good knots and the right stuff, you can pull in a house with that and use your drag right. So I would use the same thing, like if I was live baiting, I mean, if you're in a 40-inch snook or something comes along, you want to be able to bring,
Yeah.
I want to win that one. I'm not going to win that one. You don't know how many times in a redfish tournament I've had my heart broke by a 40-inch snook. Because we catch everything. We're making all these casts. We're catching everything out there. And as soon as we see that thing, we know we're in trouble. And I got one hen that was 33 inches because I caught him, happened to catch him in the corner with a jig. And I was able to get him in. But because we want to cast, if you think about casting, sometimes like we said, I come in here, I might blind cast this whole area, which means I'm 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And if I'm throwing 60 yards and you're throwing 40 yards and I throw 100 times, I just went 2,000, real quick math, 2,000 more yards of water I just covered because I could throw further. So I use like a 7.6 rod, 7.4, 7.6 rod, pretty light, 3,000 rod reels, 10-pound braid, 20-pound fluorocarbon. That's very, very standard in the redfish tournament world. That's almost what everybody uses because we have to cast further, and sometimes skinny water fish are spooky. They can feel you more, they can hear you more, so longer cast. And that's the first thing somebody will go, hey, will you take me fishing? And I'll be like, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on your casting for 30 minutes. But you need to be able to cast 50 or 60 yards. They'll do the one hand off thing or something like that. And I got, I'm like a bullet, I shoot it out there. And that's the first thing you got to learn with that. He's more precise. You don't have to throw as far, but it's more precision. So still casting is very important on both sides. But so 7-foot rods I use them, but I like about that 7.6. I can get that 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce jig, that extra 10 or 15 feet. That makes a big difference sometimes. So.
I use a 7.3 around 7 foot, and like I was saying, when you fish in the bushes or whatever, those redfish, you can have 30 redfish on one bush, and they're gonna have a spot 6 inches on where they're gonna eat. You gotta get it on that spot. And he could tell you, John would tell you, I took him a couple of weeks ago, and you could throw it in there, and I throw up, and I let the tide drift it right into where it's gonna hit the spot where it's gonna get, and I could pretty much
Are you nose
time them out, like,
white
okay,
bait?
it's gonna get
Are you
big.
nose hooking white bait? So you do.
I hook them in the belly, in the nose, just wherever. Sometimes I hook them in the nose, cut the tail on them, especially when I'm using green lights. I cut the tail on them and sling them in there so they won't run out. Because if it's redfish and then you throw it out, she's gonna get out. So I cut the tail off so she can't get out of there, and that's how I usually get mine. But speaking of when I was saying about up under the mangroves, you might have one spot, they might be on this leg. You can go to that leg, over here, over there, and you ain't gonna get bit. So, and when you fishing, you gotta you gotta recognize that. When you throw in and you catch a redfish, you gotta kind of notice like, okay, where did I get bit at? And throw back over there and see if you get bit there again. Don't break off and go throwing somewhere else. He could tell you 90, I would say 80% of fishing to me is pattern. Once you figure out the pattern, you pretty much got it, you know. Then the rest is luck, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to come in here and show you this, because this is, you know, people when you first start fishing like, hey, give me your spot. Now, spots are seasonal. Like where Mike's catching his fish, they're probably going to be out of there in about 2 or 3 more weeks. Sorry to tell you. But then they're going to just move and he's going to find them again because he's on the water a lot. But it's like we have 4 seasons, and the fish are going to be somewhere different in all 4 seasons for the most part. I mean, they kind of spread out, but you know, it's like this time of year they're in the trees. They're in the trees. When it starts cooling off, there's going to be a lot of fish out here inside the sandbar. A lot of fish.
And they'll school up. That's when you're gonna find the big schools out there. But right now, like he said,
They want the shade.
they want the shade and the high water. And
I heard Tiger tell y'all that Jeff Page and Rick Murphy, when are they coming?
The first Thursday next September.
The next one.
Yeah,
I would come to see that. I fish against Jeff and Rick. Y'all may know who they are. Rick Murphy's TV guy, and very good. They've won some big tournaments. Awesome anglers. They're not going to be this precise. I can trust you on that. But they're going to give you some really good information. And anyone that comes in here, CA's been in here, right? Yep. CA Richardson and Mike Anderson and all these guys. If you can take something from everybody, I've learned something from my 10-year-old daughter. You know, before when I'm fishing with her, she's wearing me out on trout. I'm like, what's she doing different? You know, I mean, I pay attention to everybody. So if you listen to, you know, CA, if you take all these seminars are great, and CA is an awesome speaker. Rick and Jeff Page are tournament winners. I mean, they just won the IFA championship. They won, you know, 40 grand. So those guys are legit. And so you get, you know, I'm beating both of them in points right now, just so y'all know. they're better than me. I'm just beating them right now.
And then like he's saying, you gotta, that's back to the pattern. I've been fishing with people who can't even spell fish. And they'll be out fishing me, and I just start watching what they're doing and grab it. And like, okay, that's working. You know, it's unorthodox, but it's working.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, I make it happen. But one of the things I found out, and if you fish on my boat, I usually tell you this after I catch 5 or 6 fish and get ahead of you, then I'll be like, hey man, just try this. And this is one of the things I figured out that 99.9% of anglers do. Like to see if they cast it in, and this is the spot where they got to hit it. And they cast it in, the bait land anywhere near and strike it on. And the first thing 99% of anglers do, they cast in the bait of it, and they'll do this. When just that little bit right there, you don't pull that bait that far from the spot. You're sitting there. You know, so when I throw in and, you know, it looks crazy when I do it, I'll sling in and I just pull on.
That's a great tip, guys. That's a great tip. I mean, that's awesome.
All my friends are going to kill me for saying this, but
Because, you know,
I pull on and just let it, instead of getting it, and I leave slike in the water. I mean, slike in the line, because when that red get on there, you're going to know. I mean, it's going to straighten the line. So, but if you throw in there and it hit the water and you do this, you don't pull it out of where it needs to be. You know, if you got it under the bush, when you do that, it's out, it's from under there. So
yeah, like one rotation on a reel is about 2 feet.
It's about 2 feet. You know, so I throw in there and I just feed it line. I started doing that because I was using some. I had a hard time finding some big shrimp, and they only had the little tiny. I don't know what to do with that. So I was throwing them in there, and I kept doing this, and I kept seeing by the time I checked it, it was out of the zone. So I just started chunking them in there and feeding it line, and it started working. So then I went and tried it out with the next person that fished with me. Next person said, I'm gonna keep doing this to see if I get 3 or 4 fish before they even get one. And it usually always work. And be my witness. Did you know that before you fished with me?
Nope.
And I told him to do it, and it worked. You know,
He was 5 up on me within the first 15 minutes.
yeah. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna tell you what you're doing wrong. You're doing this, and you're pulling it from the redfish. So, and when you feed it line, also if that tide is ripping, if you throw it right here, and say if you pull it out, it's gonna go there, and it's just gonna drift on the outside. And they ain't gonna touch it out there because the redfish, especially this time of year, they lazy. They just want to sit in that shade and get a free meal. So if you throw it right here, you feed it line, and the tide is moving in or out, whichever way. Just say if this is the bush, you know, I would throw it here, and then I would let it just drift under. And the only way it's going to drift under if it's got line to go under there. And then usually once you get in there, it's a certain spot, they'll hit it, then it's up to you to get them out. So.
But are you cutting the tails off when you do that?
Nah,
Or you-
nah. It depends. It depends on how aggressive they've been. Usually I cut the tail off. You know, you can throw cut bait, you can throw shrimp, anything in that method. If you got some big healthy white bait, you're gonna be casting a lot. You know, and sometimes the hole be so small. If it's a big area, like a big spot to get it in, I won't cut the tails because I can get it in there every time. But if it's just a little hole like this big, and I cut the tail because I know if I get it in there, it's almost luck.
You buy it or cut 'em?
I don't buy it. Nah. I usually grip them with my finger.
But he showed me one of these spots. He told me where it was at, and I was in there. I was lost in a tournament recently, and I went and looked, and the place he was telling me to throw was like this big, right here.
Yeah.
Now, got lucky. We went and beat one out of the trees that day, and then I went in one of my spots where the tide was in, and my partner stuck a Goodwine, and we got, you know, a check in the tournament, but I didn't catch a fish until 1 o'clock, you know, until the tide started coming in and using these other techniques, and that's what some of the newer tournament guys struggle with, like in that tournament I was telling you about. They're all in there, 74 teams fishing this area, and there's not going to be any water there, and you know, the 20 teams that got checks that day knew that, and the other guys didn't, and so everything they pre-fished, some guys were down there for 2 weeks, because you know, we win a boat in these tournaments, like a 30-grand boat, so they'll spend 2 weeks pre-fishing for these big tournaments, and some of them are new to it or whatever, and that's the stuff you learn when you do this for years. You start to learn patterns. It's you know, you might come out here. Mike is very good at adapting. He filmed that one TV show and was struggling.
Yeah.
He was even calling me on the phone. I said, dude, I'm on like 20-inch redfish. I don't know what to tell you. And so,
Yeah.
but they adapted and they went and he whacked some good fish later in the day, you know. And that's the stuff you got to learn. You know, there's no fish here. You know, you start to learn what changes, the wind's different or whatever, and it's just about getting out and fishing more, and you kind of learn a lot of stuff. But these seminars are great. Jeff and Rick are phenomenal fishermen. They know how to get it done, and especially, they're just both really good.
And doing that, like I did that show for the sportsman, and Kent he was catching reds in these.
Yeah,
right here.
Yeah, the day he was filming, I was in these popping these holes catching fish.
And he called me, and I went down there. He had fish, and we didn't have fish, and they didn't want to have nothing to do it with the bait, with live bait. He had a pattern. Our pattern didn't work, so I left that area and to go find some fish that was still out on the outside over at Wheaton Island. And as soon as we rolled up, and I got up on the cooler, was driving in, and it was almost like the same thing he was doing with the sand holes. We found him over there. It was a little deeper water, and a redfish came up, and we dropped the power pole, and we caught fish, not the fish. Well, George did. He caught. I missed like 20 fish that day. Somebody had a curse on me or something. Then I finally started catching them. Like the sandy potholes, that's what they was in. But over there, over here on the Southshore, they wouldn't touch it. So you gotta adapt. You just gotta.
So the fall, and I'm
day, I went this morning and we tore the redfish up the day before that. And it ain't that I'm going finding new fish in different spots. I almost got them on a watch, like I could, on a time. We went the other day and set up and was just sitting there waiting. I was like, yeah, they coming. Those fish are gonna come through here. And I got in the path on where they was gonna come. And every day, it was an hour later when he came.
Tide an hour later.
Yeah, because the tide is an hour later. So we sitting there and the people looking at me like I'm crazy, like, man, we ain't no fish there. Then all of a sudden, all 3 poles went off.
Yeah.
You know, and they
They'll be
came
there,
and worked.
this time next year, we'll probably be in that exact same place on that exact same tide.
Yeah.
I mean, and, you know, unless we have some crazy freeze or something that moves them around. So, you know, that's why that we were talking about doing a log or using your social media. There's just places I fished that I've been fishing the same spot year after year on that time of the year and that tide and all that stuff, and they're always there. If you guys have any questions, that's kind of all I got for y'all. I don't know what Mike has.
Fiddler crabs. Like the last redfish I had was so stuffed with fiddler crabs. Did you ever fish those?
Yeah, speaking of matching the hatch, I caught a red and my neighbor wanted it, cut it up. It was full of fiddler crabs. So I got to the boat ramp and I caught some. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm using today. But it was just, I'm the type that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I threw the fiddler crab in there and I switched up real quick and went back to what I know how to do. I'm pretty sure they'll eat it, but I've never caught one on it.
I've never caught one either.
Yeah, I know they eat them though.
But that's what this fish had. It was so stuffed with fiddler crab.
Yeah.
You know how you catch fiddler crabs? When you go to the boat ramp there at Cockroach, you can see them all on the beach. Take a hula hoop out there with you. And when you see them sitting there just hanging around before they get to the hole, throw the hula hoop over them, and they can't get back to their hole. And you just sit there and take your net and just scoop them up. I swear to God, it works.
Make sure you ain't got somebody filming you, because they gonna call you.